Hey, it's JJ Virgin, and welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, where I talk nutrition, exercise, and mindset with some of the coolest people in the world. Plus, I give you tips that you can put into fast action to up-level your health so that you can go out there and live that big life you're meant to live. So today we're going to keep going with the whole carbohydrate controversy. I know I've been talking about this because it's just an area that I get bombarded on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, questions about carbs. So I brought in someone who is well qualified to talk about it. I've known her now, 7-8 years, and she is Diane Sanfilippo. Now, you may know her as the author of Practical Paleo, which is coming back out. The next edition of it, the second edition of Practical Paleo, is coming out. Or you've caught her podcast at Balanced Bite or her blog posts there, or you've seen 21 Day Sugar Detox. She also wrote the Mediterranean Paleo Cookbook that's just beautiful. She's just awesome. I actually had the chance to go to her house and cook with her, and man, first of all, she blew my mind with some of the stuff she makes. Best bacon ever, but just amazing stuff. Super simple, super easy. And I just love the way she presents stuff because it's not hard to do and it makes tons of sense. And you'll see how well it fits into this whole idea of having your own personal discovery process to see how many carbs and where they fall in the sugar impact scale you should be eating. So she is going to be talking about, which are good, which are bad, how many should you eat and how often. And then, of course, I'm going to ask her the question as to what does she eat. So today's guest is Diane Sanfilippo of Practical Paleo and BalancedBites.com. All right, let's do it. Diane, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm psyched to talk to you.
Oh, and I love this topic because it's like, like every single day I get a question about carbs. I know
it's a hot
you do
one.
Too. And it just it's never not hot. This is always hot. So let's dive into this one. And carbs, are they evil?
And I think probably every nutritionist that you talk to, and obviously even yourself, you have a whole book about sugar and carbs. We all have a little bit of a different take, but I think anybody who's talking about real food nutrition will say that carbs aren't bad. As a macronutrient, we've got protein, carbs, and fat, and carbs aren't bad. We're getting carbs from fruits and vegetables. We're getting carbs from all different sources, but it's not that carbs are bad. We can't demonize this macronutrient. We have to look at which ones we're eating. So I do categorize things as sort of good carbs and bad carbs. And generally, I say that good carbs are the ones that come with nutrition, so vitamins and minerals beyond the macronutrient, beyond the calories. And sometimes people talk about empty calories, but this is really more about when you're taking in the carbohydrate as a macronutrient, are you also getting vitamins and minerals? And if you're not, then that could be a bad carb. So obviously, like white sugar, we're not getting tons of nutrients there other than the calories of the macronutrient of carbohydrate. So that's really the way that I separate things. It's kind of good carbs, bad carbs. The good carbs come with vitamins and minerals, and the bad carbs really don't.
Simple, and I like things kept simple because really, my biggest takeaway on most of the stuff is it's so much simpler than people make it. So yeah. Your favorite good carbs, your favorite, I guess would be not favorite. Let's start with good.
Favorite bad carbs. My favorite good carbs are just going to be fruits and veggies. I think everybody knows at this point when we're eating really colorful foods. And, when I was younger, I thought cauliflower couldn't possibly have vitamins because it was white. Well, that's not necessarily true, right? But when we're eating things that are fruits and vegetables, we're getting both carbohydrates and tons of vitamins and minerals. And we're actually getting a huge density of vitamins and minerals for the calories that we're eating. So that's where this idea of nutrient dense comes in. If we're eating something like kale or even a peach, we're getting lots of vitamins and minerals and not tons and tons of calories in order to get those. So, fruits and veggies are definitely my favorite.
Yeah, no big aha there. So it's great. It's like, yes, guys, it is really this simple. Eat your vegetables. Now, what about like your worst ones, like your top naughty bad carbs? What would they be?
I think just sugar in general, maple syrup. And I don't try and demonize it too much. I think that there's a context for everything. So if I put a teaspoon of maple syrup in my coffee, in the overall course of my day, that's probably some of the only sugar that's really being added to the day. And I think that for somebody who's got a healthy metabolism and is exercising, that's not the end of the world. I think when we don't realize how much sugar we're eating and it's added to a lot of products that are coming from packages, that's when we can really get into a lot of trouble. And that's when people really, as you know, end up eating way more sugar than they know about because it's in salad dressings, it's in pasta sauces. People are eating what they think is a healthy cereal, yet there's 7 kinds of sweetener added to some of the quote healthiest cereals out there. So, for me, it's something that'll be homemade or really high quality, like a grain-free treat or something like that. That's what I like, or, dark chocolate.
And I have been one of the fortunate people who has had you done cooking with you, but you really were doing the cooking, and it's like amazing. So if you don't have Diane's cookbook, like, gosh, grab your stuff. It's incredible. And that Mediterranean paleo cooking, such a beautiful cover. Wow. Because I know you're also a designer and very good with all your food styling. But let's go back to carbs and because I see this all the time. People tell me, they're not really eating sugar and they're eating a low carb diet. And then you put them on a program and they totally crash because they've been eating so many carbs and they didn't realize it. So are you seeing much of that? Like people like getting a lot more carbs than they realize into their diet, and how's that happening?
Yeah, I see both ends of the spectrum a lot. So for folks who know me, I teach mostly about like paleo nutrition, although it's not something that's the only thing I teach about. But people who come to me who are eating just a standard approach of what they think is healthy, they're eating oatmeal for breakfast and maybe, a whole wheat sandwich for lunch. And then dinner is some kind of pasta dish. And they don't realize that all day long, they're feeding their body refined carbohydrates. They're feeding themselves a huge hit of carbs every single meal, probably not a ton of protein, because most of the time, unless you really focus on protein, we know people are they're just not getting enough protein.
Right.
And then they may or may not be eating enough fat at each meal. They may be eating too much fat. They may not be getting enough. And so most people actually, if they look at the balance of their plate, if they were to enter that into a calculator, they're eating a pretty high carb diet if it's not something they're paying attention to. And those same people most often are kind of at a desk all day, I'm at a desk a lot of the day too, and I've been there, so I'm not trying to, beat up on anyone. But the fact is, if you're sitting for most of the day or you're not super active, and that is the way your diet looks, it's probably not appropriately matched to your activity level. And so I do see the flip side of that as well. I see a lot of people who go paleo, for example, and they focus only on low carb veggies and a little bit of fruit, and they forget about things like potatoes and sweet potatoes. They forget about winter squash, and they end up crashing because they're all of a sudden accidentally eating low carb. So I kind of see both sides of it.
Yeah, and let's dive into that because I've been really focusing more on this because, it seems like every year we get a big blast of ketogenic diets and then they go away, then they come back. It's like it's a crazy world we live in. and while these things have their place, I do see some of the bad effects of a low carb diet. So when does, because it's not about eating high carb, but it's also not about going super low carb. So when are you starting to see low carb become a problem?
I see low carb become a problem when, and again, as you know, a lot of people come to me who want to eat paleo or they're already eating paleo. And I have a lot of athletes who come to me. So folks who are doing CrossFit, folks who are training for, marathons or half marathons or triathlons or any kind of high intensity activity. So when I say high intensity, I mean, this is not walking or yoga or light swimming, or even you could be weight training and you really don't need a ton of carbohydrates for general weight training. Maybe for powerlifting or much heavier lifting, carbohydrates can really be helpful, but you need carbohydrates if you're doing high intensity activity. I mean, bottom line, what ends up happening is about at least 4 days in to, paleo or maybe a little bit longer, people start to feel really bad. Mm-hmm. They lose energy. They're not as strong in the gym and they feel like they don't know what's going on. And people don't realize that they've gone low carb by accident, because if you switch the focus of your nutrition to mostly vegetables with some fruit, protein and healthy fats, well, naturally your carbohydrate intake is going to drop to somewhere between 50 and 100 grams a day, just by avoiding all of those more dense carbohydrates. And that's not enough for a lot of people who are doing this kind of activity, and they'll feel it. I mean, this is something I've written. I have a whole new chapter in the second edition of Practical Paleo called Clearing Up Carb Confusion, because as you said, this comes up all the time.
Yes.
And so we have both sides. We have some people who would do much better eating 50 to 75 grams of carbs total a day, but we have a lot of people, myself included. I mean, you know what kind of exercise I do. I lift heavy weights and that's what I love to do, but I need more carbohydrates for the type of activity I'm doing. And I'm just seeing people feeling so much better when they add them back and they realize they didn't need to be scared of them, because we go so far on either end of the spectrum. Because for a lot of people, balancing things out and kind of being moderate or measuring anything is scary, you know? And so when I tell them, I want you to eat carbohydrates, but here's how much, then it becomes a little bit of a challenge. So I give people examples of like, how much should you be eating in order to help support that activity level? Because low carb will be a problem in that case. It's also a problem for people who are under a ton of stress. Mm-hmm. And I think we tend to feel it. We feel stress and then it feels worse. Like there's just this compound effect of low carb when you're under a ton of stress or you're exercising with intensity, that you just feel exhausted. And the minute you start adding some of these carbs back, you realize all of a sudden you're like a plant that was watered. You're like, oh my goodness, my whole body feels better and my energy feels better too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the biggest thing I see is just adrenal crashing. When people start to lower their carbs, I start to see their fasting blood sugar go up. They feel rotten. They don't sleep well. And it's like, no. You know, but I think we always want to just demonize some macronutrient, like, you know, I still hear people talking about being afraid of fat, you know? So yeah. It's like, what if none of these things were a problem? It's really where they came from. Like, right? I mean, there's fats that are amazing and terrible fats. There's carbs that are amazing and bad fats. And yes, and it is ultimately all about finding that right balance for you. And I'm glad you brought it up that way, because I was looking at a lot of genetic testing, and there are actually genotypes that do better lower carb and some that do better higher carb. And then it's also going to have to do with what's going on with your life, like how much stress are you under, what kind of exercise do you do. So all of those things factor together, and then you go through and you go, okay, how am I feeling? And it's like, if you're feeling crappy, like first place to look is your diet.
And it's hard for people to hear that it is a little bit different for everyone, because it's so much easier to say, and you and I have written multiple books on all of these topics. It's so much easier if everybody could follow the one plan and have success. And unfortunately, we all have different things going on in our lives, and we also have different things going on like from year to year. So let's say one year you trained for a marathon or a half marathon, and then this year you're not, and you forgot to adjust your diet accordingly. You know what I mean? That's going to backfire because your body was operating one way. And, you know, we forget that change is so huge. And so I like for people to also look at rebalancing their plate. One of the things I see happening often with folks who go paleo, and then we say, don't be scared of carbs, add some more carbs back. What they do is literally just add the carbs, but they forget to rebalance the protein and the fat on their plate. So if you're adding back carbs, you may need to pull down the fat a little bit. I'm not saying don't eat that, but instead of the whole avocado, maybe you eat a half or a quarter while you add the carbs, because the overall balance of what's coming in total does need to be shifted if you're going to add those carbs in. And that's one of the other really big problems I see is, especially with women, it's really easy for us to add carbs to our meals. Someone says add carbs, we're like, yeah. We forget to rebalance the rest of the plate. That can cause some unwanted weight gain because all we did was add more calories. And I know it's not just a calorie game, but as you know too, like we have to balance things out for sure.
Oh, we do. Too much healthy food is unhealthy. And I see some of the different things out there that are being touted. And it's like, I go, that might work for the dudes, but you do that for women, we're going to gain weight doing that. Yeah. So we still ultimately, it's like calories do count. It's really about where they come from and the balance and what that's telling your body to do hormonally, which is what you just said. So I love that you brought that up because it's just, you know, you could add a bunch of vegetables in and be fine, but if you're going to add in a sweet potato, you got to account for it. Like I've never seen someone go, gosh, you know, I've just added in 5 cups of broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and wow, what a problem it's creating.
And we're not even talking too about, you know, an extra sweet potato doesn't typically cause someone to gain 20, 30 pounds, but we are talking about women that we probably deal with all the time who really have maybe 5 to 10 pounds that they want to lose. And this is where managing that stuff does become something you need to pay attention to for sure.
Yeah, because it's every little bit has an impact. So let's talk about you specifically, because this is what I find with my listeners. What they really want to know is what does the expert word, what does she do? And so like you, let's walk through what your typical daily routine is.
Everything or just my food?
Your food. Let's walk like from you get up in the morning, like how soon do you eat? What do you eat? You could throw your exercise in there too. I think that'd be interesting.
Okay, so my routine since last winter has been I get up, I have coffee. It's a cold brew coffee with a little bit of coconut milk. I do put about a teaspoon of maple syrup in it. That's total transparency. I can handle that. And I work out first thing in the morning. So probably about 7:30 a.m. And I typically do strength training, pretty moderate to high intensity stuff. I'm sort of built like a gymnast, but I don't quite look like the Olympic gymnast. I've definitely got more body fat than they do. But that's what I do for training. It's what I love. And so then I fuel appropriately after that. I love doing a post-workout meal that has a little more carbohydrate. So I generally eat anywhere from, let's say, 25 to 40 grams of carbs in my post-workout meal. And I have been tracking my macronutrients a lot for about the last 6 to 8 months. So that's my post-workout meal. I'll have about 4 ounces of protein and whatever healthy fat kind of comes with that. And I try and get in some veggies for breakfast, but sometimes it doesn't always happen. So then that might look this morning, it's smoked salmon, 4 ounces of smoked salmon and a little bit of goat cheese I put on there. And I actually had half of a gluten-free bagel, which works for me, doesn't work for some people. And then what else did I have? I think that's all I had so far. There's more food coming, but
more coming.
I usually do like, let's say a big pile of zoodles, so zucchini noodles, again, some protein, maybe some organic tomato sauce, and I might mix in some organic white rice. So what I do with my carbohydrates is I actually tend to take in carbohydrates almost separately from the vegetables when I'm looking to get more to fuel an active day. And so if it's somebody who is looking to exercise at a higher intensity, you could get those things in a little bit separately. And then what else? I mean, dinner pretty much looks like lunch. Sometimes for a snack, sometimes I'll do like a goat milk yogurt. I've been testing that with some cherries, some just frozen cherries, and that's pretty much it. I mean, people can see what I'm eating all the time on Instagram. Like literally, if you want to see what I'm eating all day, I'm at Diane.Practical Paleo. You can see what I'm eating most of the time over there. It's nothing too exciting, quite honestly. It's meat and vegetables, and I've been doing some gluten-free grains. And so I think that's where, that's where we need to find our different balance. And so, we come back to the good carbs, bad carbs thing. I do think that if you're eating only grain products as your carbohydrate and you're not eating vegetables and fruits, I think that's where that balance can be really off for people. And that's what most people end up doing. Like I said, for breakfast, I missed my veggies this morning, but most people miss their veggies all day long.
Exactly.
They have a salad, but it's something that's always on my mind. And often I'll have 1 to 2 cups of veggies with breakfast. And the same thing for the rest of my meals too.
Yeah, I throw them into my smoothie to make sure I get them. That's the biggest thing I see is if we didn't count potatoes and tomatoes and iceberg, we would have no vegetable intake.
I know.
And those shouldn't count. So
they're definitely a starchy carb. They're not, they're not a veggie. And I love shakes too. My body doesn't feel good with them. I try and do them sometimes, but for my appetite, they don't work as well. So I tend to do more chewable food, but it's totally different for everyone. Most people do great with shakes. I do it sometimes, but my body tends to not respond as well to that as I do.
When you're also working out in the morning, I don't know. I do them super thick. Like I literally make a shake with and eat it with a spoon. That's how I do it. I make them.
It's like your video. I love it. I love it. It's awesome.
Which one? The one where I was making shakes with my fiance in our pajamas.
Like I like to thick that way too. I'm the same way. I would eat it with a spoon.
Yes, I love them that way. So that's awesome. I always love it when people will share what it is that they're eating because everybody loves that. And I know you have a fantastic blog and podcast. It's the Balance at balancebites.com.
Yep.
And you've been someone I've been following, and you're just an awesome chef. So if anyone is looking for amazing, what I love is they're simple, easy, and they taste great. And it's not like weird stuff. I mean, this is just, like you said, this is just just basic food. The biggest takeaway is this is easier than you think, and that you're really finding out where you need to be in the carb spectrum. And that's so important. It's not about like you should have 100 grams a day. I don't know. So you're going to fall somewhere between probably 50 and 150 grams. And it's going to depend on different factors. And you figure out how you feel because, ultimately that's what matters.
For sure.
I think that's an awesome takeaway for everyone to follow. And I know you've got Practical Paleo coming back out again, right? Volume 2.
Well, second edition. It's not actually a second volume. It's a second edition. So it's hugely updated and expanded. And I cover a ton of the stuff that we've been talking about today about carbs and all the confusion, when you need more, when you don't need more, all covered in the book.
Fantastic.
And lots of new easy recipes. And
what is it going to be, like 500 pages at this point?
You think you're funny, don't you?
Well, it's so complete. Yeah, I mean, it's really an amazing book. It's like I look at the things. There are very few things I drag around with me, like very few of the books. And there's a couple books that are just like ones you want to have. And this is one of them. So that is
almost 500 pages. And we have a hardcover edition now.
I was right. See, I totally guessed that.
I jam it in there. You know how I am. But I'm really excited for people to get it because people refer to it as like the Paleo Bible. I didn't call it that, just, my readers have. And I'm excited for it to now be updated. Like you said, we have things that we're talking about in the last 4 years that are sort of new, but kind of always come around. And I really wanted to make sure I'm addressing all of those questions in the new edition so that the book can remain the resource that it's been for the last 4 years. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Perfect. I am too. That's fantastic. When does it come out?
September 6th. And I'll be doing a fairly nationwide tour through all of September. So folks can find me at balancebites.com/events. They can find all the events.
Fun. Awesome. Well, you should go there anyway, everybody. Go back to balancebites.com because if you haven't gone yet, go to balancebites.com. Lots of great info there, and your podcast rocks, and you always have great stuff in your blog. So go there. Now, thank you so much, Diane. So awesome having you join me, and I hope we get to hang out soon. And I hope I get to come over to your kitchen soon.
I'll eat some more bacon.
All righty. And I want to remind everyone listening, again, balancebites.com, and stick with me after the break. I'm going to be answering listeners' question.
You already know starting your day off with the right breakfast sets the metabolic tone for your day. And now, the perfect and easiest way to do this is with the JJ Virgin's all-in-one paleo-inspired protein shake. This convenient, nutrient-rich, protein-enhanced meal comes in 2 delicious flavors, vanilla and chocolate, and is a huge time saver, ensuring your body uses stored fat as fuel, creates steady, sustained energy, and cuts your hunger and sugar cravings. Visit jjvirgin.com/products today and experience the easy way to lose more weight and keep it off. Visit jjvirgin.com/products and start your day with a healthy shake.
Welcome back. Now, this is the time where I answer a listener's question, and today's question comes from Kevin in Oakland, and he asks, JJ, I'm using some raw honey every day in my coffee and my afternoon tea. Is that a problem? All right, I thought this was a perfect question to bring up now that we just went through this podcast with Diane, where she was talking about the fact that she puts a little maple syrup in her coffee every morning. And the answer is it could be or it may not be, and it really depends on what else you are doing and, of course, your personal metabolism. So here's the thing. What you want to do is take a total inventory of how much carbohydrate and how much sugar is getting into your diet. Remember, all carbohydrates except for fiber are going to turn into sugar. It's just whether it's easy, like you're giving it straight sugar from honey or maple syrup, or if it has to work harder, like you're bringing it from, say, brown rice or spinach. So what you want to look at is how much you're getting in overall. And what I like to look at is what are you doing on a daily basis? So let's say you're using 1 teaspoon of raw, local, organic, unfiltered honey every day, and you're eating 1 other piece of fruit, and you're choosing mainly low sugar impact grains and roots, and you're eating small amounts of them with your meals. Hey, probably not a problem. But let's look and say, oh, you're having a couple cups of coffee, you're putting a tablespoon of honey from the honey bear, and then you're having a couple of glasses of iced tea in the afternoon more. Yeah, that's a problem. So it really comes down to, and this is where the sugar impact diet walks you through this process of first taking inventory. How much sugar is sneaking into your day every day? And what about carbohydrates that are higher sugar impact? Then let's look at that overall picture. Let's lower your sugar impact, take you through that 2-week reset that I run people through in the Sugar Impact Diet so that you can get a really clear feeling of how much works best for you. Where do you need to fall on that spectrum? And then you'll know, yes, can I have this or not? But again, remember, it's the things that you do every single day that make the difference, not the things that you do every once in a while. Now, if you'd like to submit a question, just go to jjvirgin.com/ask and you can leave a voicemail for me. I can't wait to hear from you. And one more way I'd love to hear from you, I would so appreciate it if you could jump on Stitcher or iTunes and leave a review for me because it helps a bunch. And be sure to subscribe and share the show with your friends. This is JJ Virgin signing off and reminding you that you are worthy. Dare to live a life that matters.